Hey everyone, today I wanted to do a couple videos talking to you about my Glock 43 here. Now I recently took a 2-day pistol class through Spartan Training Concepts up in Hillsboro, Oregon. Fantastic class. I already have a video up on that class. I'll put a link to it. Please check it out. Really impressive training and easily the best firearms training course I've ever taken as a student. And I'm anxious to take some more of their classes. But one of the things that I wanted to do with this class is test out some of the things that I put on this Glock 43 here. Now you may have seen the kind of preliminary review I did of these Tango down extensions for the Glock 43 magazines that give you +2 capacity. If you've seen my Glock 43 versus Smith & Wesson Shield video, you know that the biggest sting I have against the 43 is the ammo capacity. Here you have one of the factory extended magazines, which the extension is really just a pinky extension. There's no added capacity, but you have 6 rounds. And in my opinion, for a primary defensive handgun, 6+1 doesn't cut it, or at least it's certainly not ideal. If it's the best you can do, it's the best you can do, but it's certainly not ideal. So I decided to try out these Tango down ones because the price was really appealing. You know, you can look at some of the Terran Tactical ones, which are pretty much the industry standard as far as magazine extensions go, but they are not cheap. Whereas these ones were much more affordable and made me much more willing to try it. And the fact that Larry Vickers is willing to put his name behind it says a lot for me. Clearly he's not going to put his name on something that doesn't work. Now, when I did my original video, I asked some people on what kind of things they wanted me to do with it, and a lot of the things involved just dropping them, and one of them was loading one with steel-cased ammo and leaving it for a few months. So I went ahead and I bought some steel-cased ammo just to be able to store it in there. You may notice 8 rounds conspicuously missing, and I even threw into one of my other videos, don't remember which one it is, but just to say, hey, as a timestamp, here's one of the magazines sitting with steel. And it's been in there for probably a couple months. I'll put the exact date that I did it down below, because I don't remember off the top of my head, but I did mention doing it in one of my videos. But it's been at least a few months, just sitting there with steel case in it, and I can say that that was the first magazine that I put in this 43 during the first part of the second day of the class, because I didn't run this during the whole class since my primary carry one is my Glock 19. I ran that one mostly, but the steel case ran just fine. Everything that I ran through these magazines ran just fine. So just for a frame of reference, including the rounds that I put through it, this last weekend at the class, I probably have somewhere between 700 and 800 rounds through these 2 magazines, so not each, but combined between the 2 of them. And to me, I've had 100% reliability with both of these magazines. And if you take a class through Spartan Training Concepts, you'll know just how much your magazines are hitting the dirt, hitting rocks, hitting everything else. I never had a single issue with rounds popping out or any feeding issues or anything like that. Again, 100% reliability. And then I also ran, of course, the factory magazine, both as a control, and since that's usually the one that I have in the gun when I'm carrying. So again, I've had exceptional luck with mine, and to the point where I feel fine carrying these as my backup magazines. As I mentioned, this is the one that I usually carry in the gun for concealability, but I do plan on now carrying these extended ones for my backup magazines, because I feel like I'm at a point where I can trust it. Now, to me, trusting aftermarket magazine extensions is not something I do lightly. For example, during that same exact class this last weekend, someone had put a +2 extension on a Glock 19 magazine, and there's a part of the class where you have to be using other people's guns and basically to simulate battlefield pickups, and you pick it up, you have to diagnose what's wrong with it and get some rounds down range. And I was able to get 1 round off, and then it went click, did a tap and rack, and it cycled, or the slide went home. So I went and a click and did another tap and rack, and the slide went home, and the slide just wasn't locking back, and I popped the magazine out and it had an empty magazine. What had happened was, because the +2 extension that they had in their Glock 19 magazine, it didn't come with a replacement spring. It was using the factory spring. When that magazine was empty, it had lost just enough spring tension to prevent the follower from actually engaging the slide lock up here. Obviously, on Glock magazines, they have a little lip right here, and that pushes up on your slide lock, and that's what locks your slide open on an empty mag. And it had lost the spring tension to do that. The Tango Down magazine extensions actually come with another spring to replace the one internally to make sure that that doesn't happen. And again, I've had zero issues with it not locking back or anything like that. Everything has worked exactly how it's supposed to. Now, I've also seen other people have issues with magazine extensions. Someone I worked with for a long time, their everyday carry system, they had never tested it the way they carried it. And we were at the range one time. They decided to cycle through their carry ammo to replace it. And as soon as they started shooting, they immediately started running into malfunctions. And it was because they were basically trying to cram too many rounds into a small magazine. It was a Glock 42. And you know, I mean, I guess the best place to find out about something like that is on the range. But realistically, if he'd had to defend himself or other people with that gun, he would have been having to deal with malfunctions, which personally is not something I want to do when my life is in danger. So if you do go with magazine extensions, my recommendation is absolutely test them out. Make sure they function reliably. If you plan on carrying with a magazine extension, make sure you test it in the configuration that you're going to be carrying it, just to make sure everything is going to work as advertised. Now, hopefully I've been rolling in footage throughout the entire testing with these magazine extensions. Obviously, I haven't been able to have a camera running every single time I've been using them, but I'll try to put in as much footage as I can with these. But so far, I do really like these magazine extensions. Now, of course, you're going to be sacrificing some concealability if you do decide to carry one of these in the gun, because you are adding quite a bit of length to the base of that grip, which is going to make it typically print more under your clothing. But if that's a sacrifice you're willing to make, because it's still going to be smaller compared to, say, my Glock 19, then that's totally up to you. But again, I didn't like carrying with just 6+1 and having 6+1 as my backup mags. So to me, as long as these worked, it was a sacrifice that I was willing to make. And for me, it's paid off. Now, there are plenty of other magazine extensions out there. I know in my original video, people were recommending a bunch of them, and a lot of them are reasonably priced. And for all I know, they work very, very well. Just for me, I decided to try these ones out. There's a lot of things I like about them. I like the fact that they flared out the bottom of these magazines to make it a little bit easier to rip and strip if you have to. But these ones have worked for me, and I am confident in saying that they will probably work for you as well. But again, if you do want to try aftermarket magazines, please test them out. Don't just trust your life to something. That goes for anything on a gun. If you replace it, which later I'll be talking about the trigger I put into this, same goes for that. If you replace anything, make sure you function test the hell out of it before you trust your life to it. So that's basically all I have. If you have any questions, feel free to throw those in the comment section below. I'm usually pretty good about responding back to you as fast as I can. But as always, I hope you're able to get something out of this video, and I really appreciate you watching. This is a Glock 43, but today I'm testing out these magazine extensions, because the biggest gripe I have about these, I love Glocks, but the standard magazine is only 6 rounds, and normally I'm totally opposed to magazine extensions because it could typically affect reliability, but I figured I'd test these ones out, which are an extra 2 rounds, so I wanted to make sure that it would feed reliably, and then do the 8 rounds plus 1 in the chamber to make sure that there wasn't so much spring pressure that it would prevent the slide from cycling. Sure. And so far I put about 150 rounds through it with the 100 I just did, and I'm impressed so far. I'm not sure I would sign my life off to it yet, but it's a good result so far. But my biggest problem with magazine extensions up to this point is they're usually really expensive. And like Terran Tactical, who's a big name in like competition shooting, they made a +2 base plate that was $35. And I'm thinking, for that price, I'll just buy another magazine. I'll have 6 extra rounds, and I can just, you know, reload and not affect the reliability of the factory mags. But these ones come in around under 10 bucks each, so I figured I'd give it a shot. And it's by a brand that I have a lot of other products of theirs that I've been really happy with, so I figured it couldn't hurt. And at least, you know, I'll get a video review out of it.